welcome back everyone to another bite-sized episode of Reality Hub, or as we like to call it, Reality Bites. So yeah, this is the shortened version of our normal podcast with just me, Rob. Shout out to Steve. And yeah, I'm just recording here at home and not in our normal usual studio. So you might actually hear a little bit of rain in the background, maybe some birds singing, but it creates quite a soothing environment. Anyway, so yeah, here we are with another raw conversation about what it means to be human and what it means to navigate our reality and what a reality we are experiencing. In the last Reality Bites, I talked about the work of this time, the spiritual work, the inner work, the reconnection to self, and taking that inward journey. So, and it is work. It is definitely work. It requires a lifelong dedication. It requires the pursuit of expansion. It requires self-inquiry. It requires self-exploration. And it also requires getting out of your comfort zone, and the spiritual journey is, in whatever form it takes, and in whatever form it takes in your own life, it requires, I'm going to say, a certain level of discomfort and suffering. And often, the suffering and the trauma, the challenges we face, and sometimes, those life-changing moments stimulate or are the catalyst for your own inner inquiry or spiritual journey. And remember, this just came to mind. Remember that journey is full of ups and downs, is full of flux and changes. And everyone is at their own particular stage on that journey. We cannot judge someone's stage. We cannot, no one's more ahead or far back or behind. So I just want you to keep that in mind. But I thought with this Reality Bites, I'd speak into seeing all of life as sacred. And this just came to me. Well, I was pondering this actually last night, and as you do, contemplating it. And yeah, you may be familiar with the hero's journey, which was made famous by Joseph Campbell. And I believe it was in his life and work as a biography, the mythologist Joseph Campbell. And there's quite a cool little diagram that you can easily Google search about this hero's journey that a lot of people have talked about, and it's made famous. What does that mean? We can all have our own interpretation of that. But basically it's I suppose I call it the self-individuation process of discovering who you really are outside of what society and programs and all these self-belief mechanisms have taught you. So, maybe it's an unprogramming, maybe it's definitely a call to action. It's definitely setting forth on your own journey, however that takes shape, in whatever form. But basically it is a call to adventure, a call to action. And it's about getting out of your comfort zone and taking that journey. And it might be an outward journey as well. We all know about the people that go to retreats, or, the old-fashioned pilgrimage, escaping your traditional routine of life and embarking on a new adventure to expand your horizons. But in the hero's journey, just briefly with the diagram, or that you obviously can't see, but it's just in front of me, it talks about, that threshold, the beginning of transformation. And then you may require help or mentor, or you might, seek the help of a guru or a spiritual teacher, someone who's been through that journey before, as you go and embark on your journey to learn more about who you are. But ultimately you will encounter challenges, and there will be temptations along the way. There will be setbacks. But along that journey, you hope that you'll have some form of revelation and transformation. It is all about transformation, the death and rebirth, the death of the old self, the old paradigm, the old way of thinking and believing, and coming to a rebirth into a new enlightenment. And that requires healing and obviously a whole bunch of other things that you'll learn for your own can't say that word, individuation process. But yeah, the hero's journey, the diagram talks about atonement and then the return back to self. So basically, you're going from the known into the unknown. But yeah, I see the hero's journey as coming back to self, to wholeness, to reclaim those parts of ourselves where we have perhaps disowned or disconnected from, for whatever reason. Just as the natural course of life, we often get off track to who we really are, to what we really want. And that can be because of just necessary survival and taking care of life. We get off on different tangents. But at some point, when we take that hero's journey, when we feel the call and the need, it is about reconnecting back to oneself, to become whole again, and yeah, to reclaim those parts of ourselves. And for me, wholeness is synonymous with holiness. So not so much in the religious context, but holy. So becoming whole again. And, so much of our lives we feel disconnected from that whole part of ourselves. If we truly want to understand who we are, then it's about becoming whole again and to unify those aspects of ourselves that maybe we've disconnected from. And a lot of that disconnect is covered up by our trauma, by our failings, by our losses, by the self-beliefs that were programmed in us basically during our early years, and we didn't have ways to cope or to reconnect or to heal those parts of ourselves. And a lot of that disconnect, can show up as shame and guilt and loss. Well, not so much loss, but as feelings of not being good enough, or feelings of that somehow I don't belong in this world, or there's something wrong with me. And that's a real, if you have that sort of feeling, and you need to get in touch with that part of you, and to listen to yourself and to really hear that cry and that voice. But I know that, part of the human condition, it's just we go through so much of that without really taking the steps to heal and to find the true root cause nature of that, because we tend to then distract ourselves and numb ourselves and avoid. We have these avoidance mechanisms because we don't want to lean into the discomfort and the pain and the suffering, because it's hard. It really is hard. It's easier to avoid all those feelings within ourselves, all those unresolved parts. And, as Carl Jung said, it's about making the unconscious conscious. It's about bringing the light into those dark aspects of ourselves, those shadow aspects that we've denied or disowned through the course of our lives. So we cannot separate or fragment our life story in order to truly heal those parts of ourselves that we've disowned as not being good enough or disliked, to truly come back to unity, to ourselves, to find that to find that home, like in the hero's journey, to come back to ourselves. Then we really do need to unify and to integrate those lost aspects of ourselves. And I suppose the difficult part is recognizing and becoming aware of those things that we've disowned, that we've left behind, so to speak, and that we've shut away from. And so that means deep diving into your into your own journey and going back to those unhealed and those parts of you that have had that trauma. And I know even me just talking about it, it's the things that come up for me, which I won't share on this podcast, but that's something which needs to come up for you and to be addressed in order to fully embark on that coming back to wholeness and coming back to you. So it reminds me of a coin. When we hold a coin, there is no separation between the heads and tails. They are one and the same. So we talk about, our shadow self, or those aspects that we've disowned, the separation that we want to heal. Well, they're a part of us. We can't fragment, as I say, in that part of ourselves, because then that causes the separation. And the thing is, the separation is the one that really seems to cause a lot of harm in our lives, when we feel separate to ourselves, separate to other people, separate to the earth, to nature, to the wholeness of life in itself. So yeah, and I suppose the cultural programming and this need for external gratification and outwardly accessed does come at a cost of having that inner harmony. We almost feel like, I don't know about you, but that this separation, there's this palpable separation whenever we feel in a state of anxiety or depressed or fear. It's some part of you. You are, I feel anyway, that you're separating an aspect of yourself that you dislike and disown because it's difficult, because there are those feelings of feeling guilty or shame or those aspects of ourselves that we simply don't like about ourselves. And of course, the unhealed trauma is so much a part of our suffering, and is the root cause of that anxiousness and depression. And, once again, suppressing and distracting and avoiding those unconscious behaviors that are a result of that trauma, which is basically a survival response that, has not been healed. I think that's such a big part of the way we lead our lives and drive our lives, and so much of it is unconscious. But yeah, that's the trauma is a huge one. It's a huge one, and that's a whole another episode and podcast. So yeah, when we become disembodied, we start living our lives in a way where we feel like something's wrong with us or we need to be fixed. So once again, it's about this disunity to self. And I suppose, the hero's journey is all about the integration and coming back home to self and back to your true nature and true essence. So seeing all of life as sacred and divine. So it's about honoring and all aspects of your life, every part of your life story, all those life experiences are in this circular container, if you like, of who you are, and when it's all together and in harmony, then that's coming back to wholeness. So I think that's all I wanted to speak into with this bite-sized podcast of Reality Bites. So just something to ponder about where you're at with your own spiritual journey and where you are at. If you are embarking on the hero's journey, remember that takes a great deal of courage and bravery. So go easy on yourself and remember to I think I'll leave you with remembering that wherever you are on that journey, that is okay. And as long as you keep taking one step forward with an open heart and with faith and with trust, that when you do come back to yourself and your home, when it feels like home, you'll realize that all those parts, all those sort of missteps, all those times when you thought you were going in the wrong direction was really just redirecting you back to who you really are. And who you really are is all that we can ever really embark on as a human, because ultimately, yeah, it all leads back to us.